This study explores the measurement of individual differences in grammatical processing using event-related potentials. Research conducted by Tanner and colleagues suggests that individuals display either an N400 or a P600 dominant profile or a combination of the two during L1 and L2 processing, given negative associations between the two effects within individuals as illustrated in this graph. However, Froman et al. Could not replicate these results calculating N400 and P600 effects using distinct electrode sites and non-adjacent time windows to minimize component overlap. Moreover, Tanner found consistency in brain response dominance across two different realizations of subject-verb agreement in the first language, arguing that response dominance reflects stable individual differences in the L1. We have three goals. First, to examine whether we can capture individual differences in ERP responses along the N400 P600 continuum using the measurement approaches suggested by Tanner and Froman. Second, to expand the evidence of consistency in L1 brain response across different syntactic and morphosyntactic conditions and also in the L2. We gathered data from 40 native speakers of English intermediate level learners of Spanish. EEG was recorded while participants judged the grammaticality of sentences in English and Spanish that contain subject, verb, and noun phrase number agreement violations as well as phrase structure violations. To address our first research question, we calculated the N400 and P600 effect magnitudes following Tanner and Froman's parameters, the details of which you can see in this table. And then we regressed effect magnitudes in both time windows within each condition to capture individual differences. To address our second and third research questions and examine consistency in brain responses, we correlated response magnitudes across conditions following Froman's approach and also participants' RDIs following Tanner's approach. Group results revealed N400 and P600 effects in English and only a frontal positivity in DL2. To address our first research question and examine individual differences in grammatical processing, we're going to look at the yellow rectangles in the correlation matrix. Results showed significant negative correlations between N400 and P600 magnitudes in all experimental conditions, both in the L1 and in the L2 in both Tanner and Froman approaches. These negative correlations are illustrated in the graphs below, which display individuals' P600 and N400 magnitudes on the x-axis and y-axis respectively. Next, we're going to explore whether brain responses are consistent across experimental manipulations to address our second and third research question. If we look at the gray circles in the correlation matrix, we see that the N400 magnitudes are not significantly correlated across any experimental conditions under either of the approaches. On the other hand, P600 magnitudes seem to be correlated across some conditions, particularly in DL1, which is consistent with Froman et al.'s findings. Second, using response dominance index as a measure of individual variability, we see that results were not significant in either language. One limitation is that these measurement approaches might not match well where the effects were actually located in our dataset. To address this limitation, we run the same set of analysis using parameters based on visual inspection of our data as well as previous literature. Results show significant negative correlations between N400 and P600 responses within all experimental conditions in DL1 and DL2. Moreover, P600 effects were significantly correlated across all conditions in DL1, but no significant correlations were found in DL2 across N400 effects or across RDIs. In conclusion, regarding research question 1, results showed that speakers seem to display different dominance toward positive or negative responses to grammar. That is, grand mean waveforms are not representative of all individuals' ERP responses. Regarding our second research question, results suggest that magnitude of the P600 effect is correlated across conditions, but N400 effects are not. This might result from the low reliability of N400 effects as seen in test-retest reliability studies. Contrary to Tanner's findings, ERP response dominance as measured by RDIs does not seem to be a stable trait transferable across conditions. It is possible that RDIs may not be sensitive enough to capture the whole spectrum of individual differences. While limitation is that L2 processing may not be stable enough at low intermediate levels of proficiency, and that we need to find a more precise way to select time windows and ROIs for individual level analysis. In the future, we want to test more proficient L2 learners and investigate the association between individual differences in L1 and L2 processing. Thank you to everyone that contributed to this project, and here's my contact information. Feel free to reach out if you have any comments or questions.